The room went silent when my own daughter looked me dead in the eye and said, "You can leave now, Mother." I stood there in the middle of her fancy living room, holding a birthday gift I'd spent 2 months saving for, surrounded by at least 40 people I'd known my whole life. Church members, neighbors, family friends. Every single one of them stared at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of their shoe. Vanessa didn't even blink. She just turned back to her mother-in-law, Constance Wellington, and laughed at something that woman whispered in her ear. Like I wasn't even there. Like I hadn't just been dismissed like the help. My hands shook as I set that gift down on the table near the door. I didn't say a word. What could I say? This was my baby girl's 42nd birthday party. In the house I helped her and Bradford buy when they got married. The same house where I'd watched my grandchildren take their first steps. I walked out of that house with my head up, but the second I got to my car, I broke down. 68 years old, and my own child had just erased me in front of everyone who mattered. But what Vanessa didn't know was that I wasn't going to stay erased. Not this time. Before we continue, shout out to Destiny from Atlanta. We appreciate the love you show by commenting and sharing. Let me tell you how it got to this point, because nothing just happens overnight. This was years in the making. My name is Loretta Hayes, and I raised 2 children by myself after their father passed when they were still in elementary school. Jerome died in a work accident at the factory. Left me with nothing but a little insurance money and 2 babies to feed. Vanessa was 8. My son Darnell was 6. I worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I cleaned houses in the morning, worked the evening shift at the hospital cafeteria, and did hair on weekends in my kitchen. We didn't have much, but we had love. We had Sunday dinners. We had each other. I made sure both my babies went to college. Vanessa got her business degree from Howard. I was so proud of her. She came back home and started working at a corporate firm downtown. That's where she met Bradford Wellington III. Now, Bradford was a good man on the surface. Polite, well-dressed, came from money. His family owned half the commercial real estate in the city. When he started courting Vanessa, I was happy for her. She deserved someone who would treat her well. But Bradford came with Constance. Constance Wellington was one of those women who wore her wealth like armor. Every time she looked at me, I could see what she was thinking. That I wasn't good enough. That my daughter had married up and should forget where she came from. The first time I met her was at their engagement party. She looked at my dress, the best one I owned, and said, "How quaint." Then she turned to Bradford and suggested they have a small, intimate wedding, just immediate family and their circle. I didn't make it to my own daughter's wedding. Vanessa called me 2 days before and said Constance thought it would be less stressful to keep it small. Just parents and siblings. But somehow, Constance's entire country club made the list. I saw the photos on Facebook. 200 people at some vineyard upstate. I cried for a week, but I told myself it was just wedding jitters. That Vanessa would come back to herself. She never did. Over the next 15 years, I watched my daughter transform into someone I didn't recognize. She moved into that big house in Constance's neighborhood, started shopping at stores I couldn't afford to walk into, stopped coming to Sunday dinners unless it was a holiday, and even then she'd show up late and leave early. Constance was always in her ear, always suggesting this or that, the right schools for the kids, the right vacation spots, the right friends. And slowly, I became the wrong mother. My son Darnell saw it happening. "Mama, Vanessa's changing," he'd tell me. "She acts like she's ashamed of you." "Don't say that," I'd answer, even though I knew he was right. "She's just adjusting to her new life." But it wasn't just adjusting. It was erasure. Vanessa stopped inviting me to family events. When I asked about my grandchildren, Taylor and Justin, she'd say they were busy with activities, piano lessons with Constance, tennis at the club, birthday parties I never heard about until after they happened. Orchestrated emotional narrative arc with tension escalation and strategic cliffhanger placement. I'm building up the emotional foundation here. Need to show Loretta's sacrifices, The gradual alienation Constance's influence, the pain of being pushed out. Set up for the shocking moment at the party, I need to continue building tension and end. Chapter 1 on a strong cliffhanger. The daughter-in-law, Camille, should appear and set up the big reveal. I'd call and get voicemail. I'd text and get one-word responses. Meanwhile, I'd see photos on social media of Vanessa and Constance at brunch, at charity galas, on trips to Martha's Vineyard. My own daughter was living a whole life that I wasn't part of. Darnell and his wife Camille became my anchors. They lived 20 minutes away in a modest house, raising their 3 kids with the same values I'd taught them. Sunday dinners at my place were sacred. Camille treated me like her own mama, always checking on me, bringing the kids by to spend time with me. "Mama Loretta," Camille would say, "you don't deserve how Vanessa treats you." I'd just smile and say, "She's still my baby girl. She'll come around." But deep down, I knew she wouldn't. Not as long as Constance had her claws in her. The breaking point came 6 months ago. My mother, Vanessa and Darnell's grandmother, passed away at 93. Mama Grace had been the backbone of our family. She'd helped me raise those kids, worked alongside me to make ends meet, and never lost her faith or her fire. When she died, she left a will. A simple will that my cousin Bernard, who was a lawyer, had helped her write years ago. Everything she had went to me. Her house, her savings, some stocks she'd bought back in the 70s that were now worth something. But there was more to it than that. Mama Grace had made me promise something before she died. "Loretta," she'd whispered in that hospital bed, her hand gripping mine. "Don't let them forget who they are. Don't let Vanessa lose herself in that woman's world. You hear me?" "I hear you, Mama." "And baby," she'd said, her voice getting weaker. "If she can't find her way back, you make sure Darnell knows everything. He's the one who stayed true." I didn't understand what she meant at the time, but Mama Grace had included a sealed letter in her will. It was addressed to me, with instructions that I could only open it if certain conditions were met. I locked that letter away and tried to forget about it. I just wanted my daughter back. The funeral was small. Darnell and Camille helped me plan everything. We held it at New Hope Baptist Church, where Mama Grace had been a member for 50 years. The same church where I'd raised my children, where Vanessa had sung in the youth choir. Vanessa showed up 30 minutes late, dressed in designer black that probably cost more than the entire funeral. She sat in the back with Bradford, stayed for the service, and left before the repast. She didn't speak to me once. Darnell was furious. "That's it, Mama. I'm done making excuses for her." "Don't," I said, even though my heart was breaking. "She's hurting in her own way." But I was lying to myself. Vanessa wasn't hurting. She was just gone. After the funeral, things got worse. Vanessa found out that Mama Grace had left everything to me, and that meant I'd inherited the house. A small 2-bedroom on the south side that was now worth quite a bit because the neighborhood had gentrified. I got a text from her. Not a call. A text. "We need to talk about Grandma's house. Bradford says we should discuss options for the property. Can we meet?" She wanted to discuss options. Like I was going to sell my mama's house and split the money with her and Darnell. Never mind that Darnell had already told me he didn't want anything. That whatever Mama Grace left should be mine. I texted back, "Your grandmother left that house to me. It's not for sale." She didn't respond. 2 months later, I got an invitation to her birthday party. A formal invitation, like I was just another guest. It came in the mail with fancy calligraphy and a note at the bottom. "Adults only. Cocktail attire requested." I almost didn't go, but Camille convinced me. "Mama Loretta, maybe this is her way of reaching out," she said. "Maybe she wants you there." So I went. I bought her a beautiful silk scarf I'd seen her admiring months ago at a boutique. I couldn't really afford it, but it was her birthday. I put on my Sunday best and drove to that house I'd helped her buy. The house was packed with people I didn't know. Young corporate types drinking wine and talking about stocks and vacation homes. A jazz band played in the corner. Caterers moved through the crowd with trays of fancy appetizers. I felt out of place immediately. I found Vanessa in the kitchen with Constance. They were laughing about something, their heads close together. When Vanessa saw me, her smile dropped. "Mother, you came." "Of course I came, baby. It's your birthday." I held out the gift, but before she could take it, Constance stepped forward. "Loretta, how nice of you to stop by," she said, like I was a neighbor dropping off mail. "Vanessa, dear, your guests from the firm are asking for you." And that's when Vanessa turned to me and said it. "You can leave now, Mother." I stood there, frozen, as the room went quiet. Someone's phone started ringing. The jazz band kept playing, but everyone around us had stopped talking. "Vanessa," I started. "I said you can leave. You've made your appearance. Thank you for coming." She turned her back on me and walked away with Constance, leaving me standing there holding that gift like a fool. I left. I got in my car. I cried. And then I got angry. That night, I sat in my living room and stared at that sealed letter from Mama Grace, the one I'd locked away, the one I'd promised myself I'd never open unless I had no choice. I opened it, and what I read changed everything. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the pages. Mama Grace had known things, secret things about the Wellington family, about Constance, about money that wasn't legally obtained, about a trust fund that Bradford's father had set up, money that Bradford had been using to finance his real estate deals. But more than that, Mama Grace had documentation, bank records, letters, proof that Bradford's grandfather had stolen land from black families during urban renewal in the 60s, land that the Wellington family had built their entire empire on. And my mother, God rest her soul, had been one of the people who'd witnessed it. She'd worked as a secretary at the city planning office back then. She'd kept copies of everything. The letter ended with instructions. "Use this if you need to protect yourself or your family. Don't let them erase you, baby. You're a Hayes woman. We don't go down without a fight." I sat with that information for 3 days. I didn't tell anyone, not even Darnell. But then something happened that forced my hand. I got a call from Camille. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Mama Loretta, can you come over? I need to talk to you. It's about Vanessa." I drove straight to their house. When I got there, Camille was sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread out in front of her. Her eyes were red from crying. "What happened, baby?" "Mama Loretta," she said, her voice breaking. "I went to Vanessa's house today to drop off something for Taylor's birthday. I was going to leave it on the porch, but Constance was there. She was arguing with someone on the phone in the driveway." "Okay?" I heard everything. "Mama Loretta, Constance has been planning something. She was talking to a lawyer about contesting Mama Grace's will. She wants that house. She's been putting ideas in Vanessa's head, telling her that you manipulated Mama Grace into leaving everything to you. They're going to sue you, Mama Loretta. They're going to try to take everything." The room spun. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself. "There's more," Camille whispered. "I heard Constance say something about making sure you're dealt with before you become a problem. Mama Loretta, I think they're planning something worse than just a lawsuit." I looked at this young woman, my daughter-in-law, who loved me more than my own daughter did, and I made a decision. "Camille, baby, I need you to do something for me. I need you to call your brother, the one who works as a private investigator. Tell him I need his help. And then I need you to help me make some copies of documents I have at home." "What documents?" I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a woman who'd been backed into a corner and was ready to fight back. The kind that are going to burn Constance Wellington's perfect little world to the ground. Camille's eyes widened. "Mama Loretta, what are you planning?" I gathered up the papers from the table and stood. My hands weren't shaking anymore. For the first time in years, I felt strong, clear, dangerous. I'm planning to remind my daughter who I am. And I'm planning to show Constance Wellington what happens when you mess with a Hayes woman. What do you need me to do? I looked at Camille, this beautiful young woman who'd stood by me when my own blood had walked away. And I told her the first step of a plan that would change everything. I need you to get me into Vanessa's house when she's not there. I need to see Bradford's home office. And I need you to record everything we find. Camille took a deep breath and nodded. When? Tomorrow. We do this tomorrow. Because if Constance wants to come for me, she'd better be ready for war. And just like that, the mother they'd dismissed and erased was about to become the opponent they never saw coming. Camille's hands were steady as she turned the key in Vanessa's front door. I was surprised she even had a key, but she explained that Vanessa had given it to her years ago for emergencies. "This is an emergency," Camille whispered as we stepped inside. It was 11 in the morning on a Wednesday. Vanessa was at work. Bradford was at his office downtown. The kids were at school. We had maybe 3 hours before anyone came home. The house looked different without people in it. Cold, like a showroom instead of a home. Everything was white and gray and expensive looking. Not a single family photo on the walls, just abstract art that probably cost more than my car. "His office is upstairs," Camille said. "Third door on the right." My daughter-in-law had come prepared. She pulled out her phone and a small notepad. Her brother Marcus, the private investigator, had told her what to look for. Financial documents, property deeds, anything related to the Wellington family business. Bradford's office was exactly what I expected. Dark wood furniture, leather chairs, walls lined with law books he probably never read. His desk was neat, organized, too organized. "People who keep their desks this clean are usually hiding something," Camille said. She'd learned that from Marcus. We started searching. File cabinets, desk drawers, the bookshelf that turned out to have a hidden compartment behind a fake row of books. "Mama Loretta, look at this." Camille had found a folder marked Wellington Properties LLC. Inside were documents dating back to the 1960s. Property acquisitions, transfer deeds. And right there, in black and white, were the addresses of houses that had been taken during urban renewal. One of those addresses was my mother's childhood home. My hands started shaking again. Mama Grace had grown up on Westfield Avenue. The city had claimed that whole block through eminent domain, said they were building a community center, but they never did. Bradford's grandfather had bought all that land for pennies and built commercial properties on it. The shopping center where I used to take Vanessa for back-to-school clothes, that was built on land stolen from my mother's family. "Take pictures of everything," I said, my voice hard. Camille snapped photos while I kept searching. That's when I found the second folder. This one was labeled Legal Confidential. Inside was a draft lawsuit, against me, filed by Vanessa Wellington, seeking to contest Mama Grace's will on grounds of undue influence and mental incompetence. They were going to claim my own mother wasn't in her right mind when she made her will, that I'd manipulated a dying woman. Those lying... Camille stopped herself. "I'm sorry, Mama Loretta. I know she's your daughter, but this is evil." I couldn't speak. I just stared at my daughter's signature at the bottom of the document. She'd already signed it. This wasn't a plan. This was already in motion. But there was more. Behind the lawsuit was a letter from Constance to her attorney. I read it twice to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Constance had written, "Once we secure the property, we can move forward with the development plans. Bradford's been hesitant, but Vanessa understands the value. The mother won't be a problem much longer. I'm handling it." What did she mean by "won't be a problem much longer"? "Camille, we need to go. Now." "Wait, there's one more thing." She pulled out a leather journal from the bottom drawer. This looks like Bradford's personal notes. I flipped through it, page after page of financial calculations, meeting notes. And then I found an entry from 3 weeks ago. Mother insists we need to move faster on the Hayes property. Vanessa finally agreed to the lawsuit. She's worried about the optics, but Mother convinced her it's for the children's future. The old woman's assets could fund the Harbor Point development. Mother says she has a plan to expedite things if legal channels take too long. I told her to be careful, but she never listens. My blood ran cold. Expedite things. What did that mean? We took photos of everything and put it all back exactly how we found it. By the time we left, you couldn't tell anyone had been there. In Camille's car, I finally let myself feel the rage. She signed papers to call my mama incompetent. She's plotting with that woman to take everything. And Bradford knows Constance is planning something. And he's just letting it happen. What do we do now? Camille asked. Now we call Marcus. And then we call someone else. Marcus met us at my house that evening. He was a tall, serious man in his 30s with the kind of eyes that didn't miss anything. He looked through all the photos we'd taken, making notes on his laptop. "This is good, really good," he said. "The property documents alone show a pattern of predatory acquisition. And this journal entry, if something happens to you and Bradford knew his mother was planning something, that's conspiracy." "What do you mean, if something happens to me?" I asked, though I already knew. Marcus looked at me directly. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm going to be real with you. Expedite things in the context of an inheritance dispute usually means one of two things. Either they're planning to pressure you into signing over the property, or they're planning something worse." "You think Constance would actually try to hurt Mama Loretta?" Camille's voice went high. "I think Constance Wellington is used to getting what she wants, and I think she sees your mother-in-law as an obstacle. We need to take this seriously." That's when Darnell walked in. Camille had called him from the car. My son looked at me with so much pain in his eyes. "Mama, why didn't you tell me it was this bad?" "Because she's your sister. I didn't want to put you in the middle." "I've been in the middle since we were kids," he said, sitting down next to me. "Vanessa always thought she was better than us, even before she met Bradford. But this? Mama, she's trying to steal from you. She's working with people who might hurt you." "We don't know that for sure," I said, but even I didn't believe it. Marcus closed his laptop. "Here's what we do. First, Mrs. Hayes, you need to secure all your assets. Transfer everything into a trust that can't be touched. I know a lawyer who specializes in elder law, Judith Harper. She's good, and she's tough." "I can't afford." "She owes me a favor. She'll do the initial work pro bono. Second, we document everything. I'm going to start surveillance on Constance and Bradford. We need to know what they're planning." "And third?" I asked. Marcus smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Third, we go on offense. You have documents that could destroy the Wellington family's reputation and possibly their business. That's leverage. We make them understand that if they come for you, you'll take them down with you." Darnell squeezed my hand. "Mama, are you ready for this? Once we start, there's no going back." I thought about Vanessa's face at that party, the coldness in her eyes, the way she'd dismissed me like I was nothing. I thought about my mother's letter, about the families who'd lost their homes, about the grandbabies I barely got to see anymore. "I'm ready." The next morning, I met Judith Harper at her office downtown. She was a black woman in her 50s, wearing a power suit and natural hair styled in neat locks. Her office walls were covered with plaques and awards. "Marcus told me about your situation," she said after we shook hands. "I've dealt with the Wellingtons before, represented a client in a property dispute about 10 years ago. They're ruthless." "That's what I'm learning." I showed her everything. Mama Grace's will, the photos from Bradford's office, the lawsuit draft, the journal entry. Judith's expression got harder with each document. "Mrs. Hayes, you're sitting on a powder keg. These property documents prove the Wellington family built their empire on stolen land. That's not just civil litigation. That could be criminal fraud, especially if they knew about it and continued to profit. What are my options? We can do several things. First, I'll file a counter motion to dismiss their lawsuit. We'll show that your mother was completely competent and that this is a harassment suit. Second, we'll create an irrevocable trust for all your assets. Even if they somehow win in court, they can't touch what's in the trust. And third? Judith leaned back in her chair. Third, we prepare a nuclear option. I'll draft a legal complaint outlining the Wellington family's history of property theft, with all your evidence attached. We won't file it yet. We'll hold it as leverage. If they escalate, we detonate. Will that work? Mrs. Hayes, do you know what Constance Wellington cares about most? Money? Close. Reputation. The Wellingtons are old money trying to look like good money. They sit on charity boards. They donate to museums. Bradford's running for city council next year. If this information goes public, they're done. Not just financially, socially, politically, everything. For the first time in months, I felt hope. 3 days later, everything changed. I was at home making dinner when someone knocked on my door. It was Pastor Reynolds from New Hope Baptist Church. Sister Loretta, can I come in? Of course, Pastor. He sat at my kitchen table looking uncomfortable. I heard some things today, some disturbing things. What things? Constance Wellington called me. She's on our building committee, helps with fundraising. She said she's concerned about you. Said you've been acting erratic since your mother passed. Said she's worried about your mental health. My stomach dropped. Pastor, that's not... I know, sister, I know. That's why I'm here. Constance was testing me, seeing if I'd go along with her narrative. She asked if I'd noticed any concerning behavior from you. If I thought you were competent to handle your affairs. She's building a case against me. That's exactly what she's doing. And she's not stopping with me. She's been calling people from church, your neighbors, anyone who knows you, planting seeds of doubt. I felt sick. This was her plan. Discredit me. Make everyone think I was losing my mind. Then take everything. Pastor, I need to tell you something, and I need you to believe me. I told him everything. About the lawsuit, about the stolen property, about Mama Grace's documents, about the journal entry that suggested Constance was planning to expedite things. Pastor Reynolds listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Sister Loretta, I've been pastoring for 30 years. I've seen a lot of evil disguised as respectability. The Wellingtons have always made me uneasy, too smooth, too perfect, but I never had proof of anything wrong. And now? Now I'm going to make some calls. We have lawyers in our congregation, people who work in city government, people who owe me favors. You're not alone in this. After he left, I called Marcus. They're making their move. Constance is going around telling people I'm mentally unstable. Perfect, Marcus said. Perfect? How is that perfect? Because it proves their intent. Mrs. Hayes, I've been doing surveillance like I promised. I've got footage of Constance meeting with a lawyer, not her regular attorney, someone else. Someone who specializes in guardianship cases. My hands went numb. Guardianship? If they can get a judge to declare you mentally incompetent, they can take control of all your assets. You'd lose everything. Your house, your mother's house, your savings, all of it. Can they do that? They can try. But here's the thing. I've also got footage of her meeting with someone else. Someone who makes me very nervous. A man named Vincent Cross. He's got a record. Assault, intimidation. He works as a fixer for wealthy people who need problems to disappear. The room tilted. You think she hired someone to hurt me? I think she hired someone to scare you. Maybe stage an incident that makes you look confused or unstable. A fall, a car accident, something that looks accidental but accomplishes her goal. We need to go to the police. With what? Footage of meetings? We don't have proof of a crime yet, but we need to move fast. Is Judith ready with the trust paperwork? She's finishing it tomorrow. Good. Sign it immediately. And Mrs. Hayes? Don't go anywhere alone. Not until this is over. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Vanessa. Did she know what Constance was planning? Or was she so blind that she couldn't see the monster she'd aligned herself with? The next morning I went to Judith's office with Darnell and Camille. We signed all the trust documents. Everything I owned was now protected. It's done, Judith said. Even if they get a guardianship order, they can't touch these assets. The trust is irrevocable and has Darnell as trustee. Now what? I asked. Now we wait. They'll make their next move soon. And when they do, we'll be ready. We didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, Camille called me, screaming, "Mama Loretta, turn on your TV! Channel 7! I turned it on and felt the world drop out from under me. There was Bradford Wellington on the news, standing in front of microphones, looking somber and concerned. "It's with a heavy heart that my family must address a private matter publicly," he was saying. "My wife's mother, Loretta Hayes, is suffering from what we believe to be early-stage dementia. She's been making erratic decisions, accusing family members of conspiracies, and we fear she's being taken advantage of by individuals seeking access to her late mother's estate." The reporter asked, "What are you planning to do?" "We're seeking a guardianship order for her protection. We love Loretta deeply, and we just want to make sure she's safe and cared for in this difficult time." Behind him, I could see Constance looking appropriately concerned, and next to her, with tears in her eyes, was my daughter Vanessa. My own daughter was on television, telling the world I was crazy. My phone started ringing. Friends, church members, neighbors, everyone had seen it. I sat there staring at the screen, and something inside me finally broke. Not in a bad way, in a freeing way. They'd just made this personal. They'd just declared war on television. And they had no idea what I was about to do. I picked up my phone and called Judith Harper. "Did you see?" I asked. "I saw. They just made the biggest mistake of their lives." "Why?" "Because everything Bradford just said is on record, public record, and when we prove he's lying, it's not just defamation, it's fraud. I'm calling the judge now. We're going to stop this guardianship petition before it starts." Then I called Marcus. "How fast can you get me that footage?" "I can have it ready in an hour." "What are you planning?" "I'm planning to show the city exactly who the Wellingtons really are, and I'm going to make sure my daughter watches her perfect world crumble on live television, just like she tried to do to me." "Mrs. Hayes, are you sure? Once you do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with Vanessa..." "My relationship with Vanessa died when she told me to leave her party. What I'm fighting for now is justice, for my mama, for all the families they destroyed, and for myself." I hung up and looked at Darnell and Camille, who'd rushed over after the broadcast. "They want to make this public?" I said. "Fine, let's give them public. Call Pastor Reynolds, tell him I need to use the church, and tell him to invite the media." "Mama, what are you going to do?" Darnell asked. I smiled. It was the same smile I'd given Camille a week ago. The smile of a woman who'd been backed into a corner and was done being prey. "I'm going to hold a press conference of my own, and I'm going to tell this city the truth about Constance Wellington, Bradford Wellington, and every crime they've committed for the past 60 years. Camille's eyes went wide. "Mama Loretta, they'll come after you even harder." "Let them come. I've got the truth, I've got evidence, and I've got God on my side. They've got lies, money, and fear. We'll see which one wins." The war had officially begun, and this time I wasn't backing down. The sanctuary at New Hope Baptist Church was packed. Pastor Reynolds had made calls, and people showed up. Media trucks lined the street outside. Reporters filled the front pews. Church members stood along the walls. And in the back, I could see faces I recognized, Neighbors, people from the community, families who'd lost their homes to urban renewal decades ago. Judith Harper stood next to me at the podium, her briefcase full of documents. Marcus was in the sound booth, ready to play the footage. Darnell sat in the front row with his kids, and Camille was beside me, holding a folder that contained something even I didn't know about yet. "Are you ready?" Judith whispered. "I've been ready for 68 years. I stepped up to the microphone. The room went quiet except for the clicking of cameras. "My name is Loretta Hayes," I began. "And yesterday, my son-in-law, Bradford Wellington, went on television and told this city that I'm suffering from dementia. He said I'm erratic, paranoid, and being manipulated. He's asking a judge to take control of my life and my assets." I paused, looking directly at the cameras. "I'm here today to tell you that every single word he said was a lie, and I'm going to prove it." A murmur went through the crowd. "But before I do that, I need to tell you a story. A story about my mother, Grace Hayes, who worked as a secretary at the city planning office in 1965. A story about families who lost their homes. And a story about how one wealthy family built an empire on stolen land." I nodded to Marcus. The screens behind me lit up with the property documents, addresses, transfer deeds, photos of the old neighborhood before it was demolished. "This was Westfield Avenue in 1965, I said, pointing to an old photograph. 23 families lived on this block. Black families, working families. The city used eminent domain to claim this land, saying they were building a community center for the public good." I clicked to the next slide. This is what they built instead. Wellington Shopping Plaza, owned by Richard Wellington, Bradford's grandfather. He bought the land for $10,000. Today, that property is worth $15 million. The reporters were scribbling notes. Cameras flashed. My mother's childhood home was on that block. She watched her parents get forced out with 30 days' notice and pennies for compensation. But my mother was smart. She kept records, copies of documents that showed Richard Wellington had inside information about the city's plans before they were made public. Documents that proved he bribed city officials to push through the eminent domain order. I paused, letting that sink in. "The Wellington family has spent 60 years pretending to be respectable. They sit on charity boards, they donate to museums, Bradford's running for city council. But their entire fortune was built on theft, corruption, and the suffering of black families who had no power to fight back." A hand shot up from a reporter. "Mrs. Hayes, do you have proof of these allegations?" "Yes. I'm submitting copies of all documents to the district attorney's office today. But that's not even the worst part of this story." I clicked to the next slide, photos from Bradford's office. 3 days ago, I obtained these documents from Bradford Wellington's home office. This is a lawsuit they plan to file against me, claiming my mother was mentally incompetent when she made her will. They want her house, the same house her parents lost on Westfield Avenue, the house she spent 40 years saving to buy back. My voice got harder. But they didn't just plan to sue me. According to Bradford's personal journal, his mother, Constance Wellington, had plans to expedite things if legal channels took too long. I looked at the camera. In case you're wondering what expedite things means, I'll tell you. Constance Wellington has been going around to my church, my neighbors, and my friends, telling them I'm mentally unstable, building a case to have me declared incompetent. The crowd gasped. And 5 days ago, our private investigator documented Constance meeting with Vincent Cross, a man with a criminal record for assault and intimidation, a man who works as a fixer for wealthy people who need problems to disappear. Marcus played the surveillance footage on the screens. There was Constance, clear as day, meeting Vincent Cross in a parking garage, handing him an envelope. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras went crazy. "So when Bradford Wellington went on television yesterday and said I was paranoid," I said, my voice rising, "he was lying. When he said I was making up conspiracies, he was lying. And when he said they just wanted to protect me, he was setting me up to be destroyed." That's when Camille stepped forward to the microphone. "Mrs. Hayes, can I say something?" she asked. I was surprised, but I nodded. Camille's hands were shaking as she opened her folder. "My name is Camille Hayes. I'm married to Mrs. Hayes's son, Darnell, and I have something I need to confess." The room went silent. 2 weeks ago, I overheard Constance Wellington on the phone making plans to contest my mother-in-law's inheritance. But what I didn't tell anyone, what I've been afraid to say, is that I heard something else. Something about my niece and nephew. My heart stopped. "Camille, what are you talking about?" She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I heard Constance tell someone that if they couldn't get control of your assets one way, they'd use Taylor and Justin. She said, once Vanessa has full custody and cuts off the grandmother completely, we can position guardianship as protecting the children's inheritance. Mama Loretta, they were planning to use your grandchildren as leverage." The room exploded again. "There's more," Camille said, her voice breaking. "3 days ago, Taylor called me crying. She's 14 years old. She said her grandmother Constance told her that you were sick and dangerous, and that she should be afraid of you. She said Constance has been telling both kids terrible lies about you for months, trying to turn them against you." I felt like I'd been punched. "My babies." "But Taylor didn't believe it," Camille continued. "She asked me if it was true. I told her the truth, that you're the strongest, kindest woman I know. And she said something that broke my heart. She said, 'I miss Grandma Loretta. Why doesn't she come see us anymore?'" Camille pulled out her phone. "With Taylor's permission, I recorded our conversation. She wants the truth to come out." She played the audio. Taylor's young voice filled the church. "Grandma Constance says Grandma Loretta is crazy. But I don't believe her. Grandma Constance lies about everything. She told Mom that Grandma Loretta didn't want to see us anymore, but I know that's not true. I tried to call Grandma Loretta last week, but Grandma Constance took my phone away. I just want to see her. I miss her so much." I was crying now. So was half the church. Camille looked directly at the cameras. "Constance Wellington has been systematically isolating Mrs. Hayes from her own grandchildren. She's been poisoning Vanessa against her mother for years, and she's been using those children as pawns in a plan to steal an elderly woman's home. That's the shocking secret nobody wants to talk about. The Wellingtons don't just steal property, they steal families." The reporters were standing now, shouting questions. Pastor Reynolds had to come to the podium to restore order. "That's not all," Judith Harper said, stepping forward. "I'm Mrs. Hayes' attorney, and I'm here to announce that we're filing a lawsuit against the Wellington family for defamation, harassment, elder abuse, and fraud. We're also requesting a restraining order against Constance Wellington, prohibiting her from contacting Mrs. Hayes or her grandchildren." She held up a thick document. "Additionally, we're filing a formal complaint with the district attorney's office requesting a criminal investigation into the Wellington family's property acquisitions and possible bribery of public officials. Every document, every piece of evidence Mrs. Hayes mentioned today is being submitted to the authorities." A reporter shouted, "Has Bradford Wellington responded?" "Not yet," Judith said with a smile. "But I imagine he will soon." We didn't have to wait long. By that evening, the story was everywhere. Every news channel, every newspaper, social media was on fire. #Wellington corruption was trending. People who'd lost their homes in urban renewal were coming forward with their own stories. Bradford's city council campaign imploded. His business partners started distancing themselves. The charity boards asked him to step down, and Constance Wellington was arrested. Marcus's surveillance footage, combined with testimony from Vincent Cross, who turned on Constance in exchange for a plea deal, proved that she had hired him to stage an incident that would make me look mentally unstable. Vincent admitted he was supposed to break into my house, make it look like I'd had a confused episode, maybe hurt myself. The charges against her were serious: conspiracy to commit assault, attempted fraud, elder abuse. 3 days after the press conference, I got a call from someone I never expected. "Mother, it's Vanessa." I almost hung up, but something in her voice stopped me. "What do you want, Vanessa? Can we meet, please? I need to talk to you." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Darnell insisted on coming with me. Vanessa looked terrible. Her hair wasn't perfect. Her makeup was smudged. She'd been crying. "I didn't know," she said as soon as she sat down. "Mother, I swear I didn't know what Constance was planning. The lawsuit, yes. I signed those papers. But hiring someone to hurt you? Using my children? I had no idea." "How could you not know?" I asked, my voice cold. "How could you be so blind?" "Because I wanted to belong," she whispered. "Do you know what it's like to grow up poor? To watch other kids have things we couldn't afford? To be embarrassed about where we lived?" "I gave you everything I had, Vanessa." "I know. And I was so ungrateful. When I met Bradford, I saw a chance to be someone different. Someone who didn't have to worry about money. Constance made me feel like I was special, like I was one of them. And slowly, she convinced me that you were holding me back. That you were the reason I felt ashamed." Tears ran down her face. "But you weren't holding me back. I was running from myself. From my own history. From the woman who sacrificed everything for me." "You told me to leave your party, Vanessa, in front of everyone." "I know. It was the most shameful thing I've ever done. Constance had been in my ear all week saying you were trying to embarrass me by showing up in your church clothes instead of proper attire. She made me feel like you were there to make me look bad. So I pushed you away. Again," she sobbed. "I've been pushing you away for 15 years. And I didn't realize what I was doing until I saw you on TV, fighting for your life against people who were supposed to be my family. My husband's family. My children's family." "Where's Bradford in all this?" Darnell asked. "Bradford's a coward," Vanessa said bitterly. "He knew his mother was going too far, but he wouldn't stand up to her. He just kept saying, 'Let her handle it.' When I confronted him after your press conference, when I asked him if he knew about Vincent Cross, do you know what he said? He said, 'I didn't want to know.' Like that makes it better." She looked at me with desperate eyes. "Mother, I filed for divorce. I've moved out of that house with my children. We're staying with friends until I can find a place of our own. I've withdrawn from the lawsuit. And I've given a statement to the district attorney's office about everything I know." I didn't know what to say. "I know you probably can't forgive me," she continued. "I don't even know if I can forgive myself. But Taylor and Justin are asking about you. They want to see you. Constance poisoned them against you, but they're smart kids. They know something was wrong. Taylor especially. She's been asking questions." "Camille told me," I said quietly. "Can they see you? Please?" They miss their grandmother. The real one, not the one who used them as weapons. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She was broken. Humiliated. Everything she'd built her life around had turned out to be rotten. But she was still my baby girl. "They can see me," I said. "But Vanessa, you and I have a long road ahead of us. You hurt me. You hurt me so deeply that I don't know if we'll ever get back what we had." "I know. But you're still my daughter. And if you're really ready to face the truth about yourself and make changes, then maybe we can start rebuilding. Slowly." She nodded, crying harder. "And Vanessa, you need therapy. Real therapy. To deal with why you were so ashamed of who you were. Because that shame almost destroyed both of us." "I will. I promise." The court case took 6 months. Constance Wellington was sentenced to 3 years in prison for conspiracy and attempted elder abuse. Bradford avoided criminal charges but lost everything else: his reputation, his business partnerships, his political ambitions. the district attorney's office opened an investigation into the Wellington family's property dealings. Several properties were found to have been acquired through fraud and bribery. Restitution was ordered. Some families even got their land back. Bradford and Vanessa's divorce was finalized. She got custody of the kids, the house they'd lived in, which was in her name, not his, and a settlement that would keep them comfortable but not wealthy. Vanessa got a job at a nonprofit that helped families facing foreclosure. She said she wanted to give back, to help people who'd been hurt the way the Wellingtons had hurt others. We had Sunday dinners again, just like when she was little. Vanessa and her kids would come to my house. Darnell and Camille and their kids would be there. We'd cook together, laugh together, pray together. Taylor and Justin were healing too. They loved having access to both their grandmothers again, though they only saw Constance in prison, and those visits got less frequent over time. One Sunday, about 8 months after everything had gone down, Taylor came into the kitchen where I was making cornbread. "Grandma Loretta?" "Yes, baby?" "I'm sorry we believed what Grandma Constance said about you." I put down my spoon and pulled her into a hug. "You were children. You believe the adults around you. That's not your fault." "But I should have known better. You've never been anything but kind to us." "Taylor, listen to me. Sometimes people we love hurt us. Sometimes they lie to us. But you know what makes us strong? Learning from it, not letting bitterness poison our hearts. You and your brother are going to be okay because you're surrounded by people who really love you. People who show up. People who tell the truth." She hugged me tighter. "I love you, Grandma." "I love you too, baby." A year after the press conference, I got a letter from the city. They were renaming the park on Westfield Avenue, the park built on the land where my mother's childhood home once stood. They were calling it Grace Hayes Memorial Park, in honor of my mother's courage in documenting the truth. At the dedication ceremony, I stood with both my children, all my grandchildren, Pastor Reynolds, and dozens of people from families who'd lost their homes. There was a plaque with my mother's name and a quote from her. "Truth buried is truth waiting. Justice delayed is justice gathering strength." Vanessa squeezed my hand. "Grandma Grace would be so proud of you." "She'd be proud of you too," I said, "for finding your way back." We still had hard days. Vanessa still struggled with guilt and shame. I still had moments where I remembered the pain of being dismissed, rejected, erased. But we were healing. Together. 2 years after everything happened, I sold Mama Grace's house. Not because anyone forced me to, but because I was ready. I used the money to start a foundation, the Grace Hayes Justice Fund. We help families fight predatory property acquisitions. We provide legal services to elderly people facing exploitation. We document history so it can't be erased. Darnell runs it with me. Vanessa volunteers there on weekends. Even Taylor, now 16, helps out after school. One evening I was closing up the foundation's office when Vanessa came by. "Mama, can we talk?" "Of course." We sat in the small conference room. She looked nervous. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened," she said. "About who I became. About why I let Constance manipulate me." "And?" "I think I was so busy trying to escape poverty that I forgot poverty wasn't the enemy. Shame was. I was ashamed of where I came from, and Constance exploited that shame. She made me feel like I had to choose between my past and my future, between you and the life I wanted. But you never had to choose, baby. I wanted that life for you too. I just wanted to be part of it. I know that now, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I'm sorry I wasted so many years pushing away the person who loved me most." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Vanessa, you're here now. That's what matters. Do you forgive me?" I thought about it, really thought about it. The hurt had been real, deep. It had almost destroyed me. But holding on to that hurt would only destroy me more. "Yes," I said. "I forgive you. Not because what you did was okay, but because you're my daughter and I love you, and because forgiveness is the only way forward for both of us." She started crying. "I don't deserve you." "Nobody deserves love, baby. That's not how love works. Love isn't earned. It's given, freely, even when it's hard, even when it hurts." We sat there for a long time, holding hands, crying together, healing together. Today I'm 70 years old. I live in a modest house that I own free and clear. I have both my children in my life. I see my grandchildren regularly. I run a foundation that helps people fight back against the kind of injustice that almost destroyed me. I'm not rich, but I'm free. And every Sunday my house fills with family, real family, not the kind that uses you or manipulates you or tries to erase you, the kind that shows up, the kind that tells the truth, the kind that loves you even when you're broken. Constance Wellington is still in prison. She'll be out in a year. I don't know what will happen then, but I'm not afraid of her anymore. Bradford remarried some society woman and moved to another state. The kids don't talk to him much. He sends cards on birthdays. It's more than he deserves, but it's what Vanessa allows. And me? I wake up every morning grateful. Grateful for the fight. Grateful for the victory. Grateful for the broken road that led me here. Because I learned something through all of this. You can't erase someone who knows who they are. You can't steal from someone who knows their worth. And you can't destroy someone who has truth on their side. I was dismissed, rejected, almost destroyed. But I survived. I fought back. And I won. Not just in court, not just in public opinion. I won back my dignity, my family, my peace. And that's the greatest victory of all. Last week, Taylor asked me to help her with a school project about family history. We sat at my kitchen table, looking through old photos. "Grandma, tell me about your mama," she said. I pulled out a picture of Mama Grace from the 1960s, standing in front of her parents' house on Westfield Avenue. She looked young, strong, fierce. "Your great-great-grandmother was a warrior," I said. "She survived things that would have broken most people. She fought for justice even when nobody was listening. She kept the truth alive so that one day it could set us all free." "Like you did," Taylor said. "Yes, baby, like I did. And one day, like you will too." She looked at me with those wise young eyes. "I want to be strong like you and Mama Grace." "Then remember this, Taylor. Strength isn't about never being hurt. It's about getting back up after you've been knocked down. It's about speaking truth even when your voice shakes. It's about loving people even when they've hurt you. That's real strength." She hugged me. "I love you, Grandma Loretta. I love you too, baby. More than you'll ever know." As I watched her walk home with Vanessa that evening, I felt my mother's presence. Mama Grace, who'd given me the tools to fight back. Who'd believed I was strong enough to handle the truth? And I heard her voice in my head, clear as day. "You did good, baby. You did real good." I smiled, wiped my eyes, and went back inside my house. My home, my peace, my victory. And it was enough. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.